Howdy folks, and welcome to the Elite Dangerous Horizons beta test. That's right, this is the expansion for Elite Dangerous that allows you to do planetary landings, all of those sexy looking planets and orbital bodies that you've been flying past and just admiring out of the window of your ship. In the past, when this expansion hits, you're going to be able to land on them at last. Well, not all of them. You're not going to be doing any flybys of the Golden Gate Bridge anytime soon. The number and type of planets that you can actually land on is limited at first. I have absolutely no doubt that being able to land on planets, populated planets, large planets like Earth, and the various different heavily populated and industrialized planets scattered throughout the galaxy is coming in the future. You could do it in Elite 2, but that was 20 years ago. I have absolutely no doubt that it's coming in Elite Dangerous as well, but for the moment, certain rocky and airless moons are the only planets upon which we can land. However, my initial attempts to actually get my ass down on a planet's surface were met with a certain degree of frustration because I ran into one of the bugs that's currently going around on the beta test servers. In order to successfully land on a planet, you must first have installed on your ship the Planetary Approach Suite. This is a software modification for your ship that enables your thrusters to effect a planetary landing. By default, when you log into the test server, every ship that you own should have the Planetary Approach Suite installed. Of course, should have it installed isn't quite the same as definitely does and will have it installed, and so this is why I got a very nasty surprise the first time I tried to effect a planetary landing, and, well, this happened. Well, shit. Okay, never mind. It's a simple bug to fix. You just dock at an orbital, go to the outfitters, and install the Planetary Approach Suite. It doesn't cost an awful lot. Currently the prices on the test server are set at 10% of the real values. So, let's get this fixed. So, while I'm getting that sorted out, let's start with the basics. Not every planet available in the game can be landed on. Obviously you can't land on a gas giant, but rocky worlds you can land on, just not all of them. The big developed worlds are currently out of bounds, and it's only really the small planetoids and airless and barren rocky moons which are available for landings. And in order to figure out which of them you can actually land on, well, they put a whole bunch of systems in the game to support this, beginning with, rather obviously, your ship's navigation panel. Now there's a bewildering array of different contacts on the ship's navigation panel that you can navigate to, and so one of the first things that they've done at long last is they've given you a filter that you can set for the navigation panel to get rid of all the junk that you're not interested in visiting, and you will note straight away one of the filters that you can set are landfall planets and moons. Anything with that blue icon next to it is something that you can land on. But of course, just being able to land on something is no guarantee that there's anything interesting there, and so there are even more options on the system map. So, I'm in the DZO system. Let's take a look at the DZO system map. One of the first things that you notice when you flash up a system map is that there are new icons around certain of the planets, and these indicate which planets you can land on. Any planet with a blue crescent is a planet upon which you can land. Any planet with a red crescent is full of dragons and space monsters. It's not really full of dragons and space monsters. I suspect that something very bad happens if you try to approach a planet with a red crescent, but I was too much of a big girl's blouse to find out. Any planet with a crescent of either description that has a number of vertical bars rising from it indicates that this planet has settlement or settlements that can be visited. And if you zoom in even further, you get a pretty bare-bones planetary map which shows the location of any settlements on the planet. I must admit I did get a little excited when I first saw this planetary map, and I thought it's completely barren, there's nothing there. Hooray! I will land on this planet and map it out for the British Empire. But sadly no. Perhaps that's something that's going to be coming in the future, but for the moment that's pretty much it as far as the planetary maps are concerned. So now that we know how to find a planet that we can actually land on, and we know how to identify the planets that actually have something interesting to see when we're there, let's get this thing down on the surface of a planet. Approaching a planet in Super Cruise as normal, only this time we're actually going to put the ship down on the surface. We're decelerating, but we're still going far too fast to make a landing. We're heading for the settlement of Nixon Enterprises, which you can see there indicated by a solid ring around its icon. A dotted ring means it's outside a line of sight. In other words, it's over the horizon on the other side of the planet. Now watch as the altimeter, which has just popped up on the right hand side of the heads-up display, which is the OC mark. That means Orbital Cruise, and there, Orbital Cruise is just engaged. Now, what we don't want to do just yet is decrease altitude so that we reach that DRP marker. When that happens, that means we're going to drop out of Orbital Cruise. At the moment, we're still technically in a version of Super Cruise flight, so we're traveling at multiple kilometers per second. However, we're not really in the sweet spot for Orbital Cruise flight. In order to find that sweet spot, you need to bring the nose up, and there, the blue lettering on the heads-up display. This now indicates that we're in the sweet spot for Orbital Cruise flight. This is where you want to be in order to circumnavigate planets at the best possible speed. Otherwise, you could be sitting here for hours just trying to fly over the horizon and get to the settlement. If, for example, it just happened to be, because of the planet's rotation, on the opposite side of the planet from which you approached. When you're in this mode, keeping the heading and attitude and altitude indicator in that blue sweet spot, you're still traveling at multiple kilometers per second, and you can see how quickly we're circumnavigating the planet here. So while we're in Orbital Cruise, what I'm actually doing here is I'm heading away from Nixon Enterprises. I want to get a good couple of hundred kilometers away, actually a good couple of thousand kilometers away, just to show you how fast you can do this. And now I'm going to turn the ship around, and we're going to get ready for our final approach. At the moment, we've actually traveled so far and so fast that Nixon Enterprises is now over the horizon. Now you can see indicated by the dotted ring around its icon. That means it's out of line of sight, it's on the other side of the planet. Line up with the settlement, and any second now it's going to pop back over the horizon, and bingo, there it is. Okay. Need to be very careful here that I don't actually drop the altitude below the marker there indicated by the DRP on the altimeter. That's going to drop me out of Orbital Cruise and into glide mode. I want to get a little bit closer to that settlement before this happens. So checking out the range, I want to get to within a couple of hundred at the most. And now we're going to start bringing it down. There she is. Soon we're going to drop out of Orbital Cruise, we're going to go into glide mode. As soon as it reaches that DRP marker on the altimeter, 100 kilometers. 70 kilometers. Altitude's dropping steadily. This is actually a pretty good approach. There we go, we've just dropped out of Orbital Cruise and glide mode is engaged. Let's see how close we can get before we drop out of glide, and we're navigating on our thrusters. And you can actually see the settlement on the surface now, so I'm going to start pulling the nose up, glide complete, and we're on our thrusters. That's not bad actually. We managed to get to within 10 kilometers of the settlement. We're still a couple of kilometers up, so we're going to start leveling out and descending.
Landing gear deployed.
This is the moderately tricky part. Landing gear deployed. I'm not perfectly lined up with the settlement, so I'm just going to swing the nose around a bit while I'm descending. Keeping an eye on the altitude. Where is it? It should be right in front of me. It's probably below the nose of the ship. Let's bring it down. Where is it? I feel like Corporal Ferro in Aliens. Where's the damn beacon? Oh, there it is. Right. That's not bad, actually. Only a couple of kilometers away. You'll notice that my radar display has changed to terrain-following radar. It gives you a picture of the ground below you, so you're not going to land on a mountain or on the edge of a crater, for example. I'm still a couple of kilometers away, and I can afford to get a bit closer than this, so we're going to thrust forward slightly. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to have to drive to the settlement once I've put the ship down. And I'm going to be doing that in the SRV, the Surface Reconnaissance Vehicle. Yeah, that's right. That's something else that you have to have on the ship. You have to fit a Surface Reconnaissance Vehicle hangar, which comes with one or more Surface Reconnaissance Vehicles. And yes, we are going to be showing you that next. What I don't want to do right now is a Jingles landing. I actually saw somebody in an Elite Dangerous video almost screw up a stealth approach to a space station and actually said, "Oh my god, I almost did a Jingles landing." Come on, let's put this thing down. We're almost there. Trying to get the alignment with the ground correct. And yeah, the thrusters are starting to kick up dust from the surface. There it is, almost down, and come on. Bingo. Not a bad landing, if I do say so myself. So, we're on the surface, and now we need to actually get out of the ship, and in order to do that, we need to deploy the surface reconnaissance vehicle. To do that, just look down between your legs, and a new infographic pops up. And there it is, deploy SRV. Pretty simple. So here we go, we're going to go joyriding. The SRV is awesome, by the way. It is so much fun. The controls are a little counterintuitive, however. The first time I took this out for a spin, I just didn't even know how to move forwards or backwards. You actually use the pitch and yaw controls. Q, by default, is reverse, and E, by default, is forward. You can remap the controls, of course, but I just use the defaults now. They've become quite intuitive after a while, and that is my Cobra Mark III with the orange ignition paint scheme, as seen from outside for the first time. Now, have a look at the scanning radar above the surface map. You can see that as the scanning beam passes over my ship, a blip appears on the radar display. There's a sort of interference pattern. That indicates that there's an object in that direction, and you can also hear a tone, which indicates how close you're getting to that object. Up ahead there, you can see the scanning radar is picking up something else. What can it be? Let's go and find out. Got my lights on, by the way, as you can see the surface being illuminated just in front. Not entirely necessary because we're on the day side, and it turns out that the scanning radar had actually picked up the Nixon Enterprises settlement. So what the hell is Nixon Enterprises? Let's get closer and find out. This is just a very, very basic, tiny little settlement. It's probably just a mining station, but there's only one way to find out. It definitely isn't big enough to support a commodities market, so I can't actually do any trading here. We're just literally getting closer just to see what there is to see. Let's have a look and see if there's any contacts popped up. Nothing so far, just my ship. And we're getting pretty close. Oh, hello, what the hell? Some kind of sentry drone? You can see it scanning the surface there. Whoa, trespass warning. Oh, let's get out of here. Swing it around. I have left the trespass zone. Alright, so they don't like visitors, whoever the hell they are. They're like the deep space version of Farmer Palmer. Get off my land. They're space rednecks. Okay, so not entirely sure what they are, but they're definitely scanning the surface. You can see their thrusters are kicking up the dust. Well, what do we have? Sentries and a Guardian. So there's some kind of guard drone. Alright. So, oh, I can target his subsystems. He's got a multi-cannon and a shield generator. That's all. Alright. When you're looking around and you're in the SRV, clicking the right mouse button will target whatever it is you're looking at. This is probably highly illegal. Yep, there it is. Oh no, I'm a wanted man. Got one. And that's probably upset his friends. Yep, here they come. And I'm under attack. So, it's time to get out of Dodge. Come on, move. Move, Jingles. Move the other way. Get away from these things. Or, yeah, I could always just turn around and fight, I suppose. That would be more fun. So I'm switching to turret view now by pressing U. And this allows me much greater control over the SRV's guns. There you go, nailed another one. You can also steer in this mode. It is so much fun. Come on, have it. Have some. Yeah, you like that, don't you, bitch? You don't have unlimited ammunition for these guns, by the way, but they do carry, well over 1,000 rounds of ammo. So you're unlikely to run out anytime soon. Let's get this sentry. Let's find out what they're doing here at Nixon Enterprises that is so important that they just have a trespass zone and threaten to shoot anybody who violates it. I'm a wanted man now, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, so we've got the settlement, or the installation, and then these, well, things. I don't know what the hell they are, so let's shoot them up. And they sure blow up nicely. And, ooh, hang on, what's going on there? Something just dropped out. Kill another one. Turns out this is actually a mining station. That's literally all it is. It's a completely automated mining station. And I'm indulging in a spot of piracy. These are the mining platforms. You shoot them up and they spew out minerals, which you can then deploy the cargo scoop from the SRV, target them. They have to be targeted, or the mining scoop, the cargo scoop will not pick them up. And then drive over them and bingo. You've just looted yourself some valuable minerals. So this is just one of the things that you can get up to on an inhabited planetoid. What about completely uninhabited planetoids that have no installations, no facilities, nothing whatsoever? What exactly is there to do there? Well, not an awful lot, if I'm being completely honest. At least not an awful lot at this early stage of development. However, that doesn't mean nothing. Do you remember the surface scanning radar that we used to locate both our ship and the settlement? That's not all it's good for. I'm currently driving across the surface of a completely barren planetoid, but the scanning radar is picking something up. You can see as the radar sweeps across the heads-up display, just above the dashboard there's some kind of object that is getting a return on the radar. And it could be absolutely anything. Jettisoned cargo, a mineral deposit, a crashed ship, a pirate outpost, a mining installation, a lost alien artifact, or just some other bum driving around in an SRV like me. But there's only one way to find out. You'll note, if you're listening, you can actually hear that the scanning tone of the radar gets faster and faster and faster the closer you are to whatever it is you've detected. And I think that's it, just up ahead. You can see one of those rocks is a slightly darker colour to everything else. So I found a mineral deposit. Alright, kind of boring, but mineral deposits don't shoot back, so it's all money in the bank. And there it is. In order to take advantage of this mineral deposit, I'm going to have to break it up into manageable chunks, and that means jumping into the turret and shooting it up with the guns. And there you go. And that has now dropped a couple of chunks of salvageable material. So, back in the cockpit, and let's have a look. What do we have? Contacts. We've got some carbon, some nickel. Alright, it's not exactly going to break the bank, but it's stuff that I didn't have before I shot the rock up. So, in order to salvage this, we need to deploy our cargo scoop, target each individual chunk one at a time, and just drive over them, nice and slow. And there we go. Now, obviously, you can always sell anything that you salvage from the surface of a planet. But that's not all you can do with them, because in Horizons they've introduced crafting into Elite, in a sort of limited form at least, at first, for the very, very first time. So, let's have a look at the cargo that we've just collected, and see what we can actually do with it. It's not listed under SRV cargo, it's a new category, materials, and there it is. We've got some iron, we've got some nickel, and we've got some carbon. What can we do with iron? We can use it to repair the SRV and manufacture explosives, small caliber and high velocity munitions. Oh, that's nice. What about the nickel? Same deal, except we can also use it to top up our auto repair module. Now, this seems like quite an innocuous new feature to the game, but it's actually going to have quite a significant impact on the way combat works, particularly that auto repair module. Let's take a closer look at this. You see, these materials that you collect can all be used to manufacture boosts for your various different systems. If you happen to have 2 vanadium and 1 germanium, you can manufacture a basic boost injection for your frameshift drive, which increases your jump range by 25%, and that's just the basic version. The standard version increases your jump range by 50%, but requires more materials. And the premium version, which requires even more exotic materials, doubles the jump range of your ship. So, okay, that's pretty nice, but it's not exactly of any immediate benefit in combat. Well, if you were to look at something like the Auto Field Maintenance Repair module, you get a refill from that, which if you inject into the AFM, well, let's just say the premium version, which does require some fairly exotic materials, doubles the rate at which you repair disabled systems that have been knocked out in combat. So with something like that, as well as the ammunition boosts that you can also manufacture using these salvageable and scavengeable materials, you can begin to see the kind of impact that Horizons is going to have, not just on being able to visit the surface of planets scattered throughout the galaxy, but also the impact that it's going to have on everything else in the game, particularly space combat. Anyway, back to the surface. Can anybody remember where we parked? Ah, shit, I've lost the ship. Surprisingly easy to do as you go wandering around the surface of these moons and planetoids. Once you get outside of contact range of your ship, it's a bugger of a time trying to find it again. Luckily, there is a way. You don't actually go looking for the ship. Instead, you have the ship come looking for you. Which I'm sure you'll agree is a darn sight more convenient. Now, if only somebody could get around to doing that with cars. They probably already have, for all I know. I wouldn't know. I don't drive. Come on, where is it? The green icon indicates the ship. Oh, there. See the shadow? It's up above. There it goes. There she is. Landing a safe distance away. Okay, let's get back on board and take off. Getting back on board the SRV, not the SRV, I'm in the SRV. Getting back on board the ship is, well, it's fairly straightforward, and it's a lot like docking at a docking station in the ship itself. In the belly of the ship is the vehicle launch bay. You just have to get the SRV underneath the vehicle launch bay and hit the automated recovery procedure. Getting around the landing legs can be a little bit tricky, and you have to make sure that the SRV is facing in the correct direction, but that is pretty much as complicated as it gets. At the moment there's only one class of SRV available in the game, but I, again, have absolutely no doubt that there will be many, many more different types of SRV with much more complicated and powerful systems. There will be many different kinds of weapons that you can fit to the SRV. It's just crying out for modifications. Still haven't actually managed to dock with the ship yet. Come on. There we go. Facing the correct way. Oh, hit the landing legs. That should be close enough. Close enough for government work anyway. And yeah, bingo. There you go. And the ship will now recover the SRV. Completely automated. And there we go. Simple. So, planetoids, airless moons, pretty barren and inhospitable places. They're either completely deserted, or they just have the odd mining outpost and nothing you can actually stop at and trade, or check out the bulletin boards, or even get a fresh cup of coffee. There are, however, larger settlements that you can trade with. While it's true that we can't land on any of the major worlds just yet, and we're not going to be able to for some time, not all of the planetoids are quite as barren and isolated as this one. Some of them do have quite extensive facilities. So we're going to check one of those out now. I've just dropped out of Orbital Cruise and I've completed my glide, and we're about to request landing permission at Gulyayev Holdings, which is a quite large settlement on the surface of Haveri 1, the first planet in the Haveri Pride system. And this settlement actually has quite extensive facilities. It's got the contacts, it's got the bulletin board, it's even got a commodities market. Exactly the same as a major orbital, the only difference being it's on the surface of a planet. Well, it's not exactly the same. There is one other significant difference. Docking computers don't work here just yet, and that's bad news for me. Because it means, well, you might get a Jingles landing out of this video just yet. Settlements like this are not like, well, not like the previous example we gave, where you can pretty much put your ship down anywhere you like. You land at a place like this, they will direct you towards a landing pad, and you'd better make sure you get there on time, or you'll attract the attention in exactly the same way that if you loiter too long around an orbital once you've requested landing clearance, you will attract the unwelcome attention of the local security services. So, can I remember how to do a manual landing? It's been so long. Hey, Jingles landing denied. Sorry guys, not today. Right, here we are, Gulyayev Holdings, and it has the same regular starport services as you'd expect in any large orbital, or even the smaller orbitals. It's got repairs, you can restock supplies and munitions, it's got a bulletin board, There are contacts where you can pay outstanding fines and so on and so on. Everything you expect of a major orbital, except it's not a major orbital. But there is one thing that you can do here that you cannot do on a major orbital. You can get out and go for a ride. And so that's exactly what we're going to do, just for the sheer hell of it. Because there doesn't actually appear to be an awful lot for you to do in the SRV when you're driving around in one of these settlements. I mean, sure, you can do what you did on an uninhabited planet, just take the SRV out, go exploring, get beyond the boundaries of the settlement and see what you can find out there. But all of the starport services are completely accessible from within the cockpit of your ship, so other than just getting out for the sheer hell of getting out, there isn't actually any reason to get out of the ship and go for a drive in the SRV on a place like this. Or maybe there is. Maybe I just completely missed it. I mean, let's face it, if I had, it wouldn't be the first time, would it? I'm sure the comments section will let me know if I missed something major and obvious, but as it is, I'm just driving around for the sheer hell of it. Oh, alright, you got me. I am not actually just driving around for the sheer hell of it, although that is as good a reason as any. There is actually something else that you need to know, and it's to do with how you get back on board your ship when you've taken the SRV for an excursion at a major settlement which requires you to land on a landing pad. And it's not quite as straightforward as you might first think. In fact, this very topic has been the source of much wailing and gnashing of teeth on the Elite Dangerous forums. It's been confusing a lot of people, and when you see how it is that you actually go about doing it, you'll understand why it's so confusing. There's got to be a better way of doing this, but luckily for you, and for me, I read the Elite Dangerous forums before I did this video, and so this is how you manage to get yourself back on board your ship. If you've landed anywhere that's big enough that requires you to actually make the use of a landing pad when you arrive. You could, of course, and a lot of people have ended up doing this just out of sheer frustration, drive a couple of kilometres away from the settlement, and then just get your ship to come to you in exactly the same way that I demonstrated previously. But the way that you're supposed to do it, and this is not particularly intuitive, and there's got to be a better way of doing it, but the way that you are supposed to do it is you flash up the contact panel in your SRV, and you make contact not with your ship. No, because that would be obvious. No. Instead, you make contact with the settlement and request docking permission with your ship. Traffic control will then give you a 10-minute clearance window in order to get back to your ship. It will give you a waypoint marker to the landing pad, in this case landing pad number 6, where your ship is docked. But you don't drive back to the landing pad. At least, not the landing pad itself. You drive back to the garage that's underneath the landing pad. The garage is actually indicated for you by a couple of flashing orange lights outside the garage doors. But those lights aren't particularly easy to see. They're not really very prominent, even at night when, you know, it's going to be easier to spot them. And even when you get it right and you do actually realise that you're not supposed to be going to the landing pad, you're supposed to be heading for the garage port underneath the landing pad, there seems to be a sort of mystery invisible spot upon which you must be precisely parked in order to be able to recover to your ship, and it doesn't give you any help whatsoever in figuring out exactly where this sweet spot is. So this is definitely something that does need some work. It just does not need to be this hard to find your way back to your ship once you've gone for an excursion in the SRV. I mean, the whole system works. It just doesn't work very well, and it's definitely something that they need to look at. Come on, 7th time lucky. Bingo! There we go, finally. I won the landing pad lottery. I finally found the correct spot. For about the 6th or 7th time, but this time it realised I was in the correct spot and it allowed me to get back on board my ship. Okay, we've recovered the SRV. Let's kick the tyres, light the fires, and get this baby back in orbit. I do have to say, overall, I'm very, very impressed with this expansion. The beta test has only been out for a day. This is the first day the beta's been up and running. It was delayed by a day. There was some sort of problems. It was supposed to come out on the 1st of December. It was delayed until the 2nd, and I wasted no time whatsoever having a go, getting to grips with the new systems, and overall, very, very impressed. I mean, it's not perfect, obviously. Trying to find your way back to a ship in a large settlement that has landing pads is problematic, as I've just shown you, but it does work, even if it doesn't work particularly well. There's so much scope for improvement and building on what they already have in here. I mean, at the moment there's only one kind of SRV, and there's a very limited range of things to do on the surface of the planets, but the entire system is just begging to have stuff added to it, which I've no doubt they will do. not just during the beta test, but also in future expansions to the game. And then, of course, we've got major worlds that we should be able to land on at some point in the future, in exactly the same way that we could all those years ago back in Frontier 2. I am personally getting very, very excited about this whole...
Hull integrity compromised. Shields offline.
What the hell was that? There are no other contacts on the radar. How did I hit something a kilometre up? What the hell? Oh, well, I couldn't give you a Jingles landing, but you got a Jingles takeoff. Let's get out of here.
Frameshift drive charging. Ready to engage. Engage.
That's it for today, folks. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.